Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole special meeting. It is Tuesday, May 21st at 6 p.m. And if I could please have a roll call, Susan.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson. Absent. Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Rolke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion from Alder Rostad and a second from Mayor Hammer. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we have anyone here for citizen comments at this meeting? Doesn't look like it. Kelly? Okay. All right, so next item on the agenda is presentation and discussion regarding possible boundaries and economic advantages of creating a new tax incremental financing district.
I'm going to start and we'll eventually turn. Sorry. We'll see if I can get to the next slide here. So the map on the presentation screen in orange highlights the Tower Drive site that the city owns. That's currently being evaluated for as part of the public safety building RFP. It's there's been a lot of internal discussion that due to the residential neighborhood and some other factors that may not be the best location for a public safety building. It'll still be evaluated, but staff believes that once that's ruled out as a site or that determination's made, it would be beneficial for the city to put an RFP out and have some discussion about what that RFP looks like in terms of what our interest is in development. That could be a mixed use site that intertwines both commercial and residential opportunities and really could lend itself to the creativity of a developer to come up with a plan that fits our parameters of our request for proposal. The purple site that's highlighted in the map is 1400 Park Avenue. We are currently, as everyone's aware, in discussions with the developer regarding the residential multi-family as well as single-family residential development. At the bottom of the screen, the yellow shaded area is Kestrel Ridge Phase 3. When the various plans were developed for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Kestrel Ridge, the original plan here showed 45 single-family residential lots. Obviously, that could change depending on developer and what they bring forward in terms of development plans, but that's a site we anticipate both single-family, multi-family development opportunities. The property owner has engaged in some recent discussions about potential development, and so why we're here tonight discussing this is to look at potential development of a tax incremental district to provide tax incremental financing to assist development in these areas. We've brought Vanderwall and Associates in. They're experts that work with a number of communities in the creation and development of TID and or TIF districts. Again, TID is the boundary, TIF is the financing tool. And Ellers will and continue to be involved on the financial side. But I'm going to turn it over to Vanderwall. They've got another slide to talk about, and it's really their opportunity to provide some additional information as well as answer any questions that the committee has this evening.
And I'll kick things off. I'm Scott Harrington. I'm a principal with the firm, been with Vanderwall for 20 years. We are a planning, economic development, and urban design firm, about 40 years in business, headquartered in Madison, also have an office in Milwaukee. We really provide a full range of municipal planning, economic development services. Area that I focus on is on TIF. I head up our our tax increment practice, development finance. And we'll be working on this. With me tonight is Sonia Krusel, associate planner, also does all manner of things, and we'll be working on this project. As I think many of you know, we sort of entered into an agreement to be on call as the city needed us for those services probably about 2 years now. Hasn't been much of a need to call us, which is fine, but we're happy to discuss this further with Matt when he did, and with all of you. Appreciate you accommodating us virtually. We're not that far away, but I've had kind of a crazy day, and so to be able to Zoom this is really helpful, and I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll all get a chance to be in person soon. In terms of this TIF, what we were asked to do is how could those 3 sites that Matt just outlined kind of be linked up into a single tax increment district. And so there's a couple of things to just be aware of when we do something like that. One is that tax increment districts have to include whole parcels of property. You can't split a property in half and say, well, this half is in, this half is out. You could do a subdivision or a CSM prior to creating the district to change the boundaries of a property if you only want to incorporate part of it, but absent that, you're either all in or all out. The second thing is that all the parcels have to touch. The most distant they could be is that at an intersection you could be, kitty corner on the diagonal, but other than that, you can't have a piece over here and a piece over there. It has to be a contiguous boundary, not unlike when you're, looking at annexations. And then the third thing is there are different types of TIF districts. And for a situation like this, where you have some existing development and you have sort of these infill sites, the 3 that Matt outlined, the best fit for this is under the statute called a mixed use district, which means that 50% of the area is suitable, not necessarily zoned, but suitable for some combination of residential, industrial, or commercial. So one of the limitations is that, quote, newly platted residential can only take up 35% of the area. So looking at Kestrel Ridge, for example, for every acre of that we would need to bring in at least 2 additional acres of something else. Could be existing development, could be existing residential, but we would need to make sure that we meet that 35% standard. That is one of the things that the Department of Revenue, who reviews TIF plans after they're adopted, would be looking at. So those were the factors that kind of went into trying to determine this boundary, which admittedly is a bit nutty looking. I call it kind of the squash bug on a windshield. But the contiguity was really the key driver here. And how do we join up those 2 sites on the north with this one way on the south? And how do we do that in a way where we're not bringing in a lot of things that aren't going to change, like this residential area that's just east of the hospital. I'm imagining that that's highly unlikely to undergo any significant redevelopment. A TIF would really be of no value there. All we would be doing is just adding a lot of base value. So what we looked at here was bringing in the golf course, and the crazy shape that you see is the current parcel boundary of the golf course. So do we need all of that? No, but does it really hurt anything to just bring the whole thing in as it is? No, I don't think it really does either, because you all own it. It would be, 0 base value. So the map looks a little nutty, but it really doesn't have any long-term impacts. And, as you may know, when you're in a TIF district, effectively nothing changes. Your assessment doesn't change. The method by which your assessment is determined doesn't change. The tax rate doesn't change. The only thing that changes is that as value is added, where do the taxes from that additional value go? every taxing jurisdiction, including your general fund, will continue to receive taxes from the base value. So anything that's already developed and paying taxes, like this sort of little residential area that we sneak to kind of connect tower up to the 1400 site, the taxes, the value that they have today, the taxes from that will continue to flow to you, the school district, the community college, the county. It's as new value gets added, it's the taxes from the added value that go to the TIF district that then are included in the project plan when you create the district about how you intend to spend those funds, and then spending decisions are made on a case-by-case basis by the city council as development occurs. So including the golf course looks a little funny, but it really has pretty much zero financial impacts on anybody. And it does then help us get continuity down to the Kestrel Ridge golf course, which then connects us to the Kestrel Ridge Phase 3. So the boundary looks a little odd, but really doesn't affect much from a finance standpoint, but then does allow this to be a singular district. You could create separate districts, but when that occurs, especially when we're talking a mixed use district as we are here, you can't share money between districts. So if one of these projects maybe needed more increment or there were some public improvements related to it, then the project would be able to support itself. We wouldn't really have anywhere else to get those funds. This way, whatever surplus increment there might be, you know, from the tower site or the 1400 site or the Kestrel Ridge site, all of that would be in one pool and could be used anywhere within the district or within a half mile of the district. I should also point out that the type of district that can receive funds from other TIFs are blighted or conservation districts. And I believe the one you have at least one blighted or conservation district. So if this TIF had surplus funds, it could actually send money to those other funds, but not the other way around. Mixed use districts can send out surplus funds to blighted or conservation district, but they can't receive the funds back from those districts. So wouldn't really, you know, affect that. And putting this in a single district, just the process that you have to go through, it's about a 3 to 4 month process, which I know we'll get to here in just a minute. To do these as independent TIFs just would take a lot more effort and run up a lot more cost. When you do a mixed use district, frankly, whether you have one parcel in it or 100, the steps are all the same. It's not really that much different. So it's much more cost effective just on the front end to create a singular district than to create multiple districts. The final thing that I would say is that when we create a TIF district, every district has a finite life as defined by the statute. And so in the case of a mixed use district, its total life would be 20 years, but you would only have the first 15 years during which you could spend money on projects. That last 5 years is intended to pay down any outstanding obligations. Maybe you borrowed some money to fix utilities, or maybe you entered into an agreement with the developer to pay them back over time that kind of takes you out to the full end of the life. So you can't make any more commitments after the first 15 years, but you have another 5 years to pay off those commitments, and if need be, you could even get an extension beyond that. But you cannot extend the spending period. So that is all to say that we want to time the TIF with when we really think there's going to be at least one project. There are some circumstances where it might make sense to sort of proactively create a TIF in order to, you know, try to excite the market and get something to happen. But you run the risk that you started a clock that you can't stop, and if the development doesn't happen for a few years, you can't get that time back. So it's important to try to time the creation of the TIF with when we think projects are actually going to happen. And I know, you know, you've got something teed up on 1400, so the time seems right. But I just kind of wanted to point that out. This is why we don't run out every day and create a TIF, because the clock really kind of governs things, and we want to save as much time for development to actually occur rather than waiting for it to occur. So I know that's a lot to throw at you to start with, and I'll kind of stop there and see what questions you have.
Thanks, Scott. I just want to make one thing clear to the council and anyone watching. And I think this was well explained, but I just want to reiterate. The golf course is being included to get that 65% non-residential development. There's no plans to develop anything with the golf course. It's helping us meet that statute requirement of creating a TID. And so any thought of development on the golf course would work against what we're trying to do here. We need that non-residential platted 65%, which the park and the golf course help us accomplish. And if any of you have questions of myself or Scott, please don't hesitate to ask.
How is only, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you. That was my first question I had on it thank you. That was my first question on it was if we were planning to develop the golf course. So I'm glad to hear it's a probable no.
It's a absolutely no.
And how do we get only one part of Kestrel Ridge's course if it's the whole property? He said it had to be the whole property?
The whole parcel.
Just
And
the
so
parcel.
Kestrel Ridge Golf Course is split into several parcels.
Okay.
Or at least two. Any other questions?
Is there a reason we didn't go down to Enerpac? Include that area? I know your emails.
As Scott referenced, you want projects teed up and ready for development. And so the ability to amend and expand this district would be a reality in the future, or more likely, you could create a separate or what would, at this point, if this is TID 7, you could create TID 8 to encompass future development opportunities, whether they're near Enerpac or anywhere from a development standpoint in the community. But we have to remember that there's a couple of factors. You have to meet that less than 35% newly platted residential. And then just to talk real briefly about equalized value. A community is allowed to have 12.4% of its equalized value within a TID. We currently, with TIDs 4, 5, and 6, are at 4.4%. So what that means in numbers is we have a capacity of roughly $48 million that could be within a new TID. So if you think about all three of these projects are home runs and meet anticipated value, there's still likely capacity for adding TID, and then understand that every year our equalized value is recalculated. So the success of a TID would bring up our equalized value across the board and create more capacity then for additional value to be in a new TID or an amended TID. Scott, did I get myself in trouble there, or is that pretty close to?
No, that's absolutely correct. You're at a little over 4%, 12's the limit. So you have plenty of capacity, so that creating this district will in no way preclude you from creating additional districts, whether that's further to the east here, west, out towards the interchange or anywhere else in town. So you would still have plenty of capacity and plenty of options to create additional districts or add on to this one or add to others without running up against the limit. Just to be clear, if you go over the limit, if you grow over the 12% within your TIFs, that's okay. But what that precludes you from doing is basically you can't create any new ones, and it's very difficult to add property. You otherwise can't do it without subtracting property. So that kind of takes you sort of out of the new TIF business. So if you grow over the 12%, that's fine, but until you come back under it, you can't create any new districts. So we do try to, stay well under that cap to keep that flexibility. This would absolutely maintain a lot of that flexibility, even if it were to fully build out, as Matt indicated.
And another kind of inflection point on this issue is in 2030 TID 4 closes. And so then that value comes out of our equalized value within a TID. So that gives us then 2030 opens up additional value to include in a TID.
And right now, that TID has half the value of all your TIDs combined. So that would really, take you way down.
Yeah, what was the 4.4%? What 3?
4.4% is our current equalized value that's contained within a TIF
Yeah, but
in a TID.
what 3 districts did you list off?
4, 5, and 6.
Perfect, thank you.
Those are our 3 open TIDs.
And just to be clear there, that 4% is the added value since those TIFs were created. So the base value is not included in that. It is included in the formula when you create a new TIF. You take the existing increased value of TIFs and add it to the base value. That has to be under 12%. But then after you create the district, then it just resorts back to just that value added. So currently, with your 3 TIFs combined, there's $28 million of added value between the 3. And there's the total value of all 3 is 51 million. So the difference between that, the 51 and the 28, you're going to make me do math off the top of my head here. So, what 20, 30, that is, 37 or something is kind of for 34 is what is base value. And again, everybody's still getting their taxes off that 34 million. It's the taxes off the 28 that are going to those respective districts.
And the intent, and I think everyone on the council understands this, is that we know we have a request for an incentive from the developer at 1,400. It is unlikely that any other development, whether that be Tower Drive, Kestrel Ridge 3, or any development occurring in the community, wouldn't be looking for assistance in infrastructure costs or incentives to develop. So by putting this TIF district in place, we're able to create a tool where it's a developer financed incentive. It's not, the risk is on the developer, not necessarily the city, by utilizing a pay-go TID format. And that would be staff's intention for all 3 of these potential development opportunities that we offer pay-go TID as an incentive for the development of these parcels. If there's no more questions, there's another slide that I kind of want to highlight, and I'm sure that Scott can provide some assistance here as well. This is a rough timeline of what it looks like to put this TID or create this district. So in the month of July, we'd need to draft a project plan, complete a feasibility analysis, and the council would adopt a resolution designating the CDA to be kind of the oversight body. This still comes to the council, but we need some communities use plan commission, some use CDA. Mike Kornman and I have discussed that our preference would be CDA and to keep development type related issues working through the CDA. There's public notices, mainly here for a joint review board meeting that would need to be completed by the end of July or by July 29th. Publication dates of August 3rd and 10th of the public hearing and JRB is the joint review board. And the joint review board has a member from the city, the school district, the county, and the technical college is what makes up that joint review board. So there's a joint review board meeting. The CDA would hold a public hearing and approve the boundary for the district. In September, city attorney would review the project plan. At the second meeting in September, the council would review the project plan and adopt a resolution approving that plan and the boundary. We would publish a Class 1 notice in the newspaper, publication of the joint review board meeting. The joint review board would meet to consider approval of the district project plan and boundaries. And by October 31st, we would notify the Department of Revenue that a TID has been created. Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about why that October 31st deadline's important in the creation of the TID?
Yeah, and actually the important deadline would be September 30th. So if the council takes action before the end of September, the base value would be the 2024 value. So basically what the property is valued at today would be the base value. It's always to your advantage to have the base value be as low as possible so that any gain in value all appreciates to the TIF. So if you expect like properties to change hands potentially before the end of the year, if you were to sell this 1400 site, for example, to the developer, the assessor may raise that number, and if that happened before the TIF was created, or before the January 1st of next year, then that value would become base value instead of new value. So the goal here would be to have the council adopt this district prior to September 30th so that the 2024 values would be the base value and lock those in and not be adjusted upward in 2025, or if they are, then that adjustment would all come into the district as new value and new increment, not as base value. And then the DOR has a deadline of the end of October to send them there's forms and stuff you have to fill out after you create a district, and to get that into them by the end of October so that they can certify it as a 2024 TID. The only other thing I'd add, Matt, is that we'd need to be finished with the project plan by the end of July, which ideally means we would get started in no later than June. Takes a while to kind of put the plans together. There's a financial feasibility that has to be done. What money do we expect to come in? Where's the money going to go? Really need a good solid 2 months to put a good plan together. So this is something ideally that we would get started on sooner rather than later in order to have a draft that's ready to notify the public by the end of July.
So my timeline needs some work, but we'll correct that and get the dates corrected and work with Vanderwall to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and just thinking that first line, you put June-July.
Yeah. Any questions about the timeline or anything further for Vanderwall? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll make sure I get the timeline updated and then share this information with the council, and we can make sure it's on the website as well.
I should point out too that this schedule was also developed around your regular meeting dates and the CDA's regular meeting dates. If you really had a need to compress the schedule and were willing to hold special meetings, some of this could be tightened up. But it seemed like where you are with 1400 and some of these other projects, that this could comfortably accommodate the schedules that they're on. So rather than force you into special meeting dates, this was really based on your existing calendar. You just put these on regular agendas for you and for the CDA.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Scott. Have a good night. Thanks for being able to join us.
Oh, so we're off then? Okay.
You're off.
All right. Well, again, look forward to meeting you all sometime soon in person. Appreciate you accommodating us virtually, and look forward to hearing what direction you want to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too. All right, at this time, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler, second from Alder Rostad. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Does anybody need to excuse themselves? Nope. We will then move into the regular meeting of the Columbus Common Council, and welcome to all those present and also those that are watching on cable. At this time, could we have a roll call, please?
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive. Present. Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
Okay, and if you would join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
I acknowledge this meeting was also posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. And could I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Rosted and a second by Alder Motif to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion on such? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to the consent agenda, which is the council and committee of the whole.
Maybe we had correspondence, but it doesn't look like we do.
That's coming. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, correspondence or communication. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now on to consent agenda. Council and committee of the whole minutes for May 7th of 2024. Approval of operator licenses for 2023-2025 licensing period, and approving the picnic license for the Columbus Softball Association for August 10th of 2024.
Alder Motive will make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Rolke to approve tonight's consent agenda. Any discussion on such? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next on the agenda is under ordinances. And first would be the ordinance 791-24 to repeal and recreate Article 7 of Chapter 98, all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicles. First, I would need a motion to suspend the rules.
Alder Rolke will move to suspend the rules on ordinance 791-24 to repeal and recreate Article 12 of Chapter 98, all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicles.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Rosted to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next would be to waive the readings of ordinance 791-24 to repeal and recreate Article 7 of Chapter 98.
Alder Motive will make a motion to repeal the readings of ordinance 792-24.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Finkler to waive the readings of ordinance 791-24. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next then would be to repeal and recreate the
Article 7 of Chapter 98 concerning all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicles.
Alder Lawson will make a motion to repeal and recreate Article 12 of Chapter 98, all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicles, with a few minor amendments. Section 98-317, I believe this is on page 3. Section A1E3 is blank.
Could you repeat that section number, Michael?
Yes, section 98-317, item A1E3.
Thank you.
And section 98-318, section A5, items B, C, and D. Yes, sir, that's on page 7. So it's section 98-318, item A5, B, C, and D.
I'm still confused on which ones you're referring to.
This is page
Under speed limits,
B says ATV, UTV operators shall slow to 10 miles per hour when within 150 feet of a residence or business, including when operating on private property held open to public ATV, UTV use. This speed limitation does not apply to a person operating an ATV, UTV on a roadway that is designated as all-terrain vehicle route. C, ATV, UTV operators shall slow to 10 miles per hour, yield and exercise extreme caution on the frozen surface of public waters or on an ATV, UTV route or trail when within 100 feet of another person not operating a motor vehicle, all-terrain vehicle, utility terrain vehicle, or snowmobile, and shall observe all other requirements in section 23-33 or .33 Wisconsin statutes. This restriction does not apply to operation of an ATV, UTV, or when competing in a sanctioned derby or race. D, ATV, UTV operators shall not exceed a speed of 10 miles per hour when within 100 feet of a fishing shanty.
Was it those items? Okay. And your item was to remove those?
yes, the top with removal of those.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Lawson and a second by Alder Rolke to repeal and recreate with the mentioned items as amended. Any further discussion? Alder Rostead.
Which one was the first one he mentioned, Mike mentioned?
First one, Mike?
Page 3, since the number 3, it's blank.
There's a blank section that didn't get caught up with the.
Oh,
lighting.
so it's just removing
Yeah.
that.
That's
Oh,
already-
Amending,
Yes, that's already been taken care of.
okay.
okay.
The 3 needs to go away.
Okay.
And
And
the other,
then what were the
on-
other ones?
On page 7, under speed limits, B, C, and D.
So we had those, wasn't there another one you had suggested?
No, that was,
Oh, okay.
are you, Alder Reed, are you done?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
So, okay, you got,
Oh, thank you. Yes, overall, I love all of the, work that's gone into this, and I think it's, a really well planned out. I'm fine with taking out the suggested items. My only concerns are, for quality of life things, which would be the cruising has been taken out, and that there are no hours of operation. Those are the only things I would, prefer to add that in, but I'm 95% happy.
Alder Motive?
I just want to clarify, the B, C, and D are coming out just because those don't pertain to anything on the roadway, correct?
Yeah, my thought was they were really needed because they sound like they're really related to off-road trails.
And is that the correct interpretation, Attorney Johnson?
I believe in light of how this ordinance is written, that's probably correct.
Okay.
I'm looking through as we're talking here to see if the statute requires that language to be included. My guess is that it doesn't, but if I find it in the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
And Alder Rossett?
Page 6, 98-318, number 2. Does it have to be issued by a Wisconsin DOT? 'Cause as this reads, it's Wisconsin only, if that's how I interpret it correctly. Can we change that to any state DOT driver's license?
Where are you?
Page 6. Under driver's license requirement number 2, it says Wisconsin DOT.
Oh, sure. Force of habit.
Okay. So I guess I would ask that we amend that as with Mike, or how we go about that process to get that added in.
My suggestion with editorial things like that is to find a way to adopt the ordinance and give the city attorney final review approval to make corrections on the additional 3 and this issue with it being Wisconsin, because he can write the correct language that it should be written as to include other states.
So we just let this motion, we just don't pass this
Yeah,
motion
so
and
do we have to
remake one?
vote on his motion and then make an amended motion once we get through all the edits?
I'll defer to Paul on how to correctly handle that.
Well, let's let Paul get caught up first, maybe.
We're
You're on.
fine. So far, Michael's motion is the one that you're voting on. Ryan's editorial change, well, that hasn't been made a motion, that he hasn't moved to amend Michael's yet, so that's just sitting out there. And if you follow what Matt said, then that'll take care of it. So far, you're here.
So I can amend my motion? Or do we need to vote it down?
Well, you,
It's whether it's for you or not.
well, right. The word Wisconsin is just gonna disappear. So, I like Matt's way of going about doing that, because that's just something I can clean up real easy.
Okay, any further discussion?
I still don't understand if we're voting or amending first. Vote then.
Well, if, the way that this is presented right now is there is a motion for Michael and there is a second by Amy. And so far, there's been no other proposed amendments aside from what Michael has done. So if there's no other amendments to propose, you vote and you're final and you're done. If there's other things that need to be amended, then you have to, somebody has to make the motion to amend further, and that has to get a second, and then you have to vote on that first. And at the end of the day, you're gonna come back here.
So if Michael wanted to make a friendly amendment to add in removal of the word Wisconsin,
Well, he could do
Would be
that.
the-
Or Ryan could do that, and then you'll vote on the amendment, and now we're all trying to keep score sitting down here.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to amend and that for section 98-318, number 2, to remove Wisconsin.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Rossed and a second by Alder Modoff or Finkler, I'm sorry, forgive me, to amend, what was it, 98? 318, number 2.
A2.
Okay. Then, any further discussion on that? Okay. So,
Vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Okay.
Amendment accepted.
Now we have to,
Not, any other proposed amendments? Hearing none?
hearing none. Okay, then we will take the action on Alder Lawson's and Alder Roki's motion and second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Look at that shit.
Next,
Okay, 2 changes.
let me get to my,
Two
yeah.
changes.
Okay, next is on the agenda is to repeal section, ordinance 792-24, to repeal section 18-222 of the City Code of Ordinances relating to fences. By doing that, because it's also covered under the Chapter 14 under zoning, so. And Mike is here if there's any further questions once a motion is made. First of all, we'll need a motion to suspend the rules.
Alder Lawson will move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion by Alder Lawson and a second by Alder Finkler to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next would be to waive the readings of ordinance 792-24.
Alder Modoff will make a motion to suspend the reading of ordinance 792-24, section 18222.
Second.
That was me.
Okay, a motion by Alder Modoff and a second by Alder Finkler to waive the readings of ordinance 792-24 to repeal section 18-222. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we would need a motion to adopt ordinance 792-24 to repeal section 18222 of the City Code of Ordinances regarding fences.
Alder Lawson will make a motion to adopt ordinance 792-24 to repeal section 18222 of the City Code of Ordinances regarding fences.
Alder Modoff will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson and a second by Alder Modoff to adopt ordinance 792-24. Any further discussion on this item? You have your light on, Mike. Did you want to say anything? Okay. Okay. All right. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance adopted. And next would be the ordinance 793-24 to repeal and recreate section 638 of chapter 6 regarding alcohol beverages. And this would give the city clerk the authority with the background checks already being done by the police department with a appeal process to the council if there was a denial. So first, I would need a motion to suspend the rules.
Alder Finkler moves to suspend the rules.
Second?
Okay, a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Rosted to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, please turn your mics on when you respond. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Then next would be to waive the readings of ordinance 793-24.
Alder Motif will make a motion to waive the reading for ordinance 793-24, section 6-3810.
Alder Finkler will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Finkler to waive the readings of ordinance 793-24. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next I would look for a motion to adopt ordinance 793-24 to repeal and recreate section 638 of chapter 6 regarding alcoholic beverages.
Alder Lawson will move to adopt ordinance 793-24 to repeal and recreate section 6-38 regarding alcoholic beverages.
Alder Motif will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson, a second by Alder Motif to adopt ordinance 793-24. Any further discussion on this? Alder Rusted?
It says, if there's a denial of the police, the clerk or the chief will then send a letter. Do we want the chief to just send the letter? Or both?
It's been normal procedure for either the police chief of a municipality or the city clerk
Okay.
to take care of it. So we can communicate that amongst ourselves.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Ordinance adopted. Now under new business. And that would be to consider and take action on the 2024 street maintenance program. We do have Troy Kehoe here if there are any further questions on this item. Pretty well explained last meeting.
Alder Finkler moves to approve the 2024 street maintenance program.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Roki to approve the 2024 street maintenance program. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will need a roll call. Those the sirens going off?
We are in a tornado warning.
Well, then our procedure will be to head out the door to get to the basement, out that door, and then down the stairs and to the left.
We will turn the broadcast back on once the warning's expired and want everyone to stay safe at home. So please seek shelter.
Are we filming?
We're good, David? All right, we're good.
Okay. Rolke,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Finkler. Aye. Reed,
Aye.
Rosted,
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
6 ayes. 0
Okay.
nays.
Next would be on the agenda, number 2, consider and take action on the police department's assigned vehicle program, which was presented last week by Darrell Ward.
Alder Motive will make a motion to approve the assigned vehicle program for the police department.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Rolke to approve the assigned vehicle program, police department assigned vehicle program. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is to consider and take action on the plan for closure of the deer park at Fireman's Park. You have the information in front of you. Troy Kehoe is here if there's any questions, but I would take a motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve the Deer Park closure plan.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson and a second by Alder Rosted to approve the closure plan of the Deer Park and Fireman's Park. Any discussion? Hearing none? Oh, sorry.
Is 4 gonna be what's the square footage? Will 4 be enough?
It's an acre and a half.
I'm not no goat expert.
It's an acre and a half fenced area.
Is that the one that's not working? There it is.
It's an acre and a half fenced in area. The people that I've talked to 5 farmers, and they said between 5 to 8. Because they're the miniature ones, they're a meat one, so 5 to 8 will be plenty.
So
we gotta-
the plan says 4.
So yeah, we need to amend that.
Is it just because we'll buy 4 once
Oh,
one
with
deer's
the
gone
one-
and then
So I think
more?
the plan was when there's only 1 deer left, then we'd get, the 4, because then
Right.
it's still enough for the deer and
And then once the second deer,
then possibly get a couple more.
okay.
Then do we have to, when that last deer passes, then the 10 years kick in? Correct? And then do we have to we just gotta make sure we don't have to keep the goats in there when they pass?
Yeah, no, you don't have to keep the goats in there when they pass.
Okay.
And then after the 10 years, the goats will still be alive because they're like a 15-year lifespan. There's farmers that will take the goats
Yeah,
if
I just didn't want
you
us to
decide.
get caught in
Right.
having to keep them in there.
Yep.
Just to prolong the whole process.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's important to note that the reason the deer pen for 10 years, it's a chronic wasting disease requirement by the DNR.
Any other discussion?
I just have a quick, oh,
Sure, no.
Trina's first.
Oh, no, thank
Alder
you.
Reed.
Just wondering, will $75 per goat likely be enough? It seems to be about half the price that would be expected for a small Nigerian goat.
Yep, so $75 was the going rate for those Nigerian. They're weathered, so it's a male, and they're weathered, obviously. Right, yep. But if you were to get like a doe, they're like 300. So, yeah, they're more expensive.
Yep. Alder Finkler.
To avoid having this have to come back in the future, do we want to amend this to say then after the remaining deer passes away that allowed to purchase 4 more, or is that not a big deal?
If it was deemed we needed an additional 4, that's within my and Troy's spending authority, so I think
We're good.
we're good.
Okay.
Okay, any other? Hearing none, then all in favor?
Aye. Do we need a roll
Opposed?
call? Because it's dollars?
Well, because of where it's already budgeted for.
Okay.
For the Deer Park, it falls under that budget item, so you don't really need to.
Okay.
So. Okay, opposed? Then we will move on to item number 4, which is to consider and take action on the proposal of Civic Plus for agenda management software in the amount of $7,636.
Alder Rolke will move to approve the proposal from Civic Plus for agenda management software in the amount of $7,636.
Alder Motive will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rolke, a second by Alder Motive to approve the proposal from Civic Plus. Any discussion? Alder Lawson?
Yes, there was an indication on the agenda item that the quote reflects 14 boards and commissions, but in the statement of work, it identifies up to 5.
You'll note further down on the quote, I'm pulling it up now. So their initial ultimate package includes up to 5 boards. You'll note at the middle of the quote, there's an additional 9 meeting bodies to get to the total of 14.
Additional 9 bodies.
So they're under recurring services. It talks about the ultimate annual package, the standalone hub purchase, and then the additional meeting bodies, and there's a quantity of 9.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments, discussion? Okay, hearing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Lawson.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. Next on the agenda is to consider and take action on moving the August 6th council meeting to August 5th to accommodate National Night Out.
Alder Finkler moves to move the August 6th council meeting to August 5th.
Alder Motive will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Motive to move August 6th meeting to August 5th. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is to consider and take action on the claims in the amount of $344,806.14.
Can I make a suggestion that we take the advice of the chiefs if we need to seek shelter? That they
Yes.
let us know if there's something eminent in,
Monitoring it right now, the latest update is Columbia County's under a severe thunderstorm warning to be issued. That's the latest update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Alder Motive will make a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $344,806.14.
Alder Finkler, a second?
Okay, motion by Alder Motive and a second by Alder Finkler to pay the claims in the amount of $344,806.14. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call.
Reed.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Lawson, again, so sorry. Relke.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Sorry about that, Amy.
Okay, report of city officers.
just a couple of quick things. Was able to attend the inaugural visit of the Borealis train this afternoon at the Amtrak station. We had a really good turnout. Train was a little delayed, but I think there's a lot of ceremonies happening on the various stops along the route today. Compliment the mayor for his work in putting together the kind of working with the DOT staff on the schedule for the event. And again, excited about not only that service being available to our residents, but the economic development opportunities it presents from a tourism standpoint, and it's great for Columbus. Also want to mention, we've been having ongoing discussions, mainly Mike Kornman and the police chief, about code enforcement. And so we are going to be increasing our code enforcement efforts. We will be doing some social media blasts and awareness of some of the frequent seen violations, and trying to address those concerns more proactively than maybe they've been done in the past, and just alert residents to have that on their radar to make sure that properties are in compliance with city code.
All right, thank you. I'd like to piggyback off of Matt's comments regarding the Amtrak Borealis. It was, yes, it was a wonderful event. Myself, Matt, Will Penterman, and a Wisconsin DOT rep spoke at this, or two representatives spoke at that. Well attended. I did present the Amtrak CEO with a key to the city of Columbus, saying, it said, Columbus, Wisconsin welcomes Amtrak Borealis. The guy towered over me. I was constantly looking up. So, but just it was a wonderful event, and really excited for our city. So, also Memorial Day event coming up. Please remember the meaning of Memorial Day, and encourage everybody to attend the Memorial Day services, which are held in our community. If you've not been to one, I encourage you to attend. It's a very good ceremony. And with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Yep. So, next, looking for a motion to convene to close session per 1985 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investments of public funds, or conducting other public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically, to discuss terms of the proposed development agreement and discuss alternative strategies for staff to continue negotiations with the developer for the development of 1400 Park Avenue.
Alder Motif will make a motion to move to closed session per 1985 1E.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Rusted to convene to closed session per 1985 1E. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in, or roll call.
Motive.
Aye.
Roki.
Aye.
Rosted.
Aye.
Finkler. Aye. Lawson.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
We are in closed session. Okay, welcome back. We are in open session, and at this time, I would entertain a motion to direct staff to continue to negotiate based on the discussion that was held in closed session for the Lamps Landing LLC development agreement for 1400 Park Avenue.
Alder Motive will make a motion for staff to continue negotiations as per our closed session agreement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Alder Motive and a second by Alder Finkler to direct staff to continue negotiation based on the discussion in closed session. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. And with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn the regular council meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Lawson to adjourn. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Does anybody mind if we just went straight through?
You do mind?
Okay. All right. Welcome back to the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole. It is 8:33 p.m. and could I please have a roll call, Susan?
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was noticed and posted according to law.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is to approve the agenda. So I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Alder Lawson and a second from Alder Motive to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I don't believe there were any citizen comments signed up. And I don't see anybody here who wants to make one, so we will just move on. Included in the packet are department reports from the library on 4/24, Lifestar on 3/24 and 4/24, Police and Fire Commission 4/24, Treasurer 3/24, 4/24. Next item on the agenda is, I'm sorry, yes.
There is no police and fire commission. Just police.
Oh, excuse me, just Police Department.
And then, I have I don't know if we can request it here for the EMS. Can we get a more, can we get a count of the interfacility transfers they do in the month? They don't report that. I'd like to see that for future reference. Interfacility transfers. So like Columbus Hospital to the nursing home, or the nursing home to the hospital. They can go anywhere. If someone calls Lifestar to take them from Columbus nursing home to out of state, they can take them all the way out of state.
Anything else on the department reports? Okay. Next item is progress update on moving council meetings to paperless.
I didn't want this to fall off discussion and just wanted to provide an update. This is a new projector. We went to hang a new TV and the TV was damaged in shipment, so we've returned that and we'll be getting a new TV and hopefully that'll be up by the next meeting. I continue to have discussions with Rhyme, and not to get too far into this, but in the transition with Rhyme, we've identified some challenges and some things that we need to work on, and so There's gonna be some other discussion that tie in the Office 365 and moving to a cloud environment. We may want that in effect before we go to council devices, so there's some sequencing of things from a security and doing things the right way moving forward that we want to get in place. And so I have another meeting with Rhyme next week to talk through devices for council, and we'll be bringing that information hopefully on June 4th in terms of next steps and sequencing as we move forward. I'll also share that we've started conversations with DPW on how to best close up the 4 openings on your desk to create maximum space for you to work with devices and other documents. So I'll be updating you as soon as I know more on that issue.
Any questions? Okay. Next item is a progress update on strategic planning process.
So included in your packet was a document that we've created. And I first want to acknowledge the team that's working on this. It includes Susan Kane, the city clerk, Amy Jo Myers, the recreation director, David Bennett, and myself are the team working on our strategic plan. We've kind of identified at least 3 initial goals of the strategic plan. That's to develop short and long-term goals, to provide strategies to accomplish those goals, and to monitor and evaluate progress throughout the life of the plan. We've determined the best phase 1 step is to conduct interviews and outreach to collect data. We've scheduled 2 staff interview opportunities where our team will facilitate those discussions with our staff, not just department heads, but we want to invite staff at all levels of the organization to participate. And then we've also scheduled 2 community focus groups. The first will be June 10th at 6 p.m. at the Columbus High School cafeteria. The second would be June 24th, also at 6 p.m. at the Columbus Country Club. I'm not going to read the questions, but we've kind of strategized on 10 questions that'll guide those discussions. And then our intention after those 4 input sessions is to come back, look at the data we've collected, what kind of insight we can gather from that, and prepare a document to come back and present to the committee of the whole for discussion and kind of what the next step from there would be. The idea is that we are going to use the council as kind of the steering committee for this rather than creating a separate steering committee, if that makes sense. So if there are any questions or things that you think we've missed to this point, willing to take that input and incorporate it as such, but we think we've got a good step as we try and take this on for the remainder of the year. The goal is to have a strategic plan for 2025 through 2027 in place by the end of this year.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion of HLPC appeals process ordinance.
Me? Mike? Me?
Okay, thank you. I am. I'm live. A lot of this work was done by the Ad hoc Ordinance Committee, and it was meant to address state law requirements as well as to give citizens an opportunity to appeal a final decision by HLPC without going to circuit court. This is only in addition to the Historic Preservation Ordinance. It doesn't modify anything else. Pretty straightforward. HLPC supported it, didn't have any objections to it. So we had minimal input from the public at the public hearing.
So you're just going to take the language that the ad hoc committee put together and move that forward for the appeal process?
Correct.
Okay. And do we still have the removal of all their power to ask for the financial stuff?
COG status?
No, when they could ask for the financial stuff from residents?
The ordinance has not been. The ordinance, to the best of my recollection, the ordinance has not been changed.
There's been an addition to the ordinance saying a citizen can appeal any final decision. It doesn't reference, and it's up to the citizen to show that HLPC did not follow the procedures or meet
Right.
the standards
The-
in the appeals process. And this is different than the economic hardship piece.
That's what I was talking about. That's not going to be a part of this, and that's not going to get changed.
It's existing and not being changed. And it's appeal to HLPC, correct? Not the city council, that portion?
It's an appeal, if I remember right, it's appeal to HLPC, and then it can come to council if need be. But they had, in one of the ordinances that we had looked at the ad hoc committee, that they were able to request tax documents and a bunch of other stuff from residents. And I just want to make sure that that's not at hand again, and they can't do that, because that's not appropriate.
I have some of, like, just to piggyback off of, and not to cut everybody off, but like, this is kind of important to what Sarah's saying. And I'm assuming you're having some confusion because this isn't the same as what we left ordinance ad hoc with.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I also had those same questions when this came to Plan Commission, and it had to be in, there had to be in public hearing or whatever. I'm not sure what happened to all this, but somehow it turned into just this, and I think it was what we handed off, then turned into this that went to Plan Commission, but I'm with you. I had the same confusion when I saw it at Plan Commission.
Do you want to address that, Paul?
Not really,
Okay.
but I'm going to. The ordinance as currently in Chapter 114 of the Code of Ordinances concerning the HLPC is not being changed at all, except to add this one section to the very end. This one section at the very end was the end result of about 6 or 7 years of constant fighting by all of you and all of us over this ordinance. And finally, to his credit, Alder Gray said, "This is really dumb. All we need is an appeal process. Here it is." And we left everything exactly like it was, except for this one paragraph. So that is what is in front of you right now. If the economic hardship stuff is in the ordinance, it's still in the ordinance. And all this other stuff, because we've been full circle about 3 times on this.
And I believe that appeal to HLPC on economic hardship is something the affected property owner would initiate, correct?
The issue that Sarah is getting at is that there is language, or at least there was at one point in time, in this section of the code that says, as part of the normal course of doing stuff, the HLPC can request this, and the other thing, a lot of which is not overly important to what the goal and the mission of the HLPC is in the first place. But it's been in there forever, and there was a effort to remove that, but that has not been removed, at least to the best of my remembering how this went down.
Can I request that we have that piece brought back to COW at a later date? I don't want to hold things up tonight, but.
Yes, it's all right here.
One thing, what you could do, we do have a plan commission member here, and part of there was some discussion at the plan commission that they may want to explore other revisions in that ordinance at a later time, I think, to me, that would be the proper place, or a place for the zoning code to be discussed and amended.
I'm fine with that. Molly, though, you're on Plan Commission,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Can you spearhead the, that piece of it?
Yeah, I can bring that up with Plan Commission, and, I mean, I think we just need to be careful in the future, like, where things fell off, because I think where I'm a little confused by this is ordinance ad hoc sent off revisions to, I think at the time it was Lisa and Paul, and then it came to council, and it was decided at council that it should be going to Plan Commission first before coming to council, to which Ian spoke, and then all of a sudden, everything changed from what ordinance ad hoc did to what Ian wanted, and then went to Plan Commission with no communication to anybody. And I was on ordinance ad hoc, and I was on Plan Commission, and I was blindsided and just as confused as Sarah is when I saw it. And now coming back here, I'm, with you. So I think that, I think now we know the proper process for this to go in, but I think we had a lot of meetings in ordinance ad hoc for this to be the only piece that came back. So I think that's part of the frustration here.
Alder Lawson? Oh, sorry, I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, if you're going to reply to that, go ahead, because
I'm sort of going to reply to that, but just remember what the process is for any changes to this ordinance. Because it's part of the zoning code. Plan Commission has to have a public hearing, Plan Commission has to weigh in. The Ordinance Ad Hoc Committee is or is not part of this process. That's up to you guys to decide that. But the Plan Commission is mandatory, and the public hearing is mandatory.
Well, on a side note to that, we do need to decide what's going on with the Ordinance Ad Hoc Committee. And that is a future date, a future agenda topic. I get that, but we wasted a lot of our time.
Years.
It was.
Alder Lawson?
Okay, there's a mention at the end of this paragraph about following receipt of testimony, the council may, by a favorable vote of 2/3 of its members. Is there any reason why we don't have simple majority listed here instead of 2/3?
I picked that. No reason.
I think the rest of what we do is by simple majority, right?
A majority is 4 and 2/3 is 4.
Not at council, right? Well, so it can be a 3-3 tie and the mayor splits
That is
at
correct.
council, which is not 2/3.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So I picked 2/3 just because I did.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Yes, at this time, I'm very comfortable simply adding in the paragraph on the appeals process so that people have an outlet not to have to go to court if there's disputes. We do need a further conversation on what we're going to do with the ordinance committee, what kind of direction, if there's a direction for it. But at this point, yes, I feel very comfortable with this in front of us.
Mayor Hammer?
So Alder Lawson mentioned about the 2/3 or the majority. How does council feel about that wording? Do you want to see 2/3 or do you want to see majority? Because if it's a 3-3 and a tie has to be broken, then that would be majority. If not, then, I mean, it's a matter of, discussion between council members to get to that 2/3 vote,
Right.
so.
The way it's worded right now is 2/3 of its members, which means 4. Even if there's only 4 of you here, it's still 4. And it also does take the mayor out of the mix, as Michael said.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion of the 2024 budget amendment.
I'm going to start this off, and Crystal may chime in and try and answer any questions or clarify anything. So you'll remember that the state changed the shared revenue formula and allowed, for the first time in a long time, some additional flexibility to communities in terms of financing from the state. One of the issues quickly that came up was expenditure restraint. The city qualifies for the expenditure restraint program. A number of communities participate in expenditure restraint. What it says is you can only increase your budget by a very minuscule percentage each year. With the change in shared revenue, the state gave cities a 1 year to reestablish their base amount. What this budget amendment does is allows us to reestablish that base amount for future expenditure restraint. What we're saying is, and specifically that $500,000 in community development contingency, that's really a placeholder that allows us to increase our base budget amount to qualify for expenditure restraint. We're not saying that we're going to go and spend that $500,000 in this budget.
Correct.
I'm impressed at 8:53 that I still got all that out. So if there are questions, we have included some of the known additional expenses that we're anticipating this year with some of the software packages and things that we've done. So if there are specific questions, please ask.
Alder Lawson?
Yeah, so the total increase of 680,000, does that maximize our opportunity? Is that like the limit and that get us where we want to be?
Take a stand. So I have been communicating with other representatives from different municipalities, and kind of the community is just a little bit bigger than us, were most of the ones I had been speaking with, and their increase was around 15 to 17%, and some were lower. They're not really trying to push it up because they're not going to be raising their levy limit very much. They have levy constraints and these types of things. We have good standing with our levy. We have good standing with how much debt we have on our levy. We have a lot more flexibility than other areas. So kind of gauging that on what I was hearing from other municipalities where their financial officers that I trust, I confer with on a monthly basis when I want to talk about financial issues. So I'm leaning towards this amount not going anymore. I don't know, I can't see ever pushing above this in the next few years for levy. So I don't see the need to go any higher. It's not something that they're going to audit. We've already filed, they have the debt included, we've already cleared that.
So if we do come up with any changes, we can possibly reappropriate within that 680. So for instance, if we wanted to see more go towards the downtown improvement program, then we could put more money there and maybe less in somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've pushed the number with everything that I know. I know there's a few other things that weren't budgeted, but we're looking at how it fits into the budget already, because things shift all year long, not dramatically. These are the items that we isolated were more dramatic, so they were included on top of the 500, because we were looking at throwing in 500, and that we do have a lot going on now that we're going to be using going forward. And just to clarify, Michael, when a budget is set, if you are within line items and you're having increased budget here and less budget here, you're basically moving it.
you don't have to do a budget amendment. If there's an extreme in a department versus a department and they want to move budget, you would want to do a budget amendment to move a big dollar item. But line items within a fund don't need a budget amendment.
Alder Rostad?
Can you explain like D and E? Could we just approve for 28.5?
I can, so the cost of the Brace study, we had, if I remember right, was it 17.5 that was budgeted?
Yes.
In the budget, and the approval amount was 28.5. So this covers that addition.
And then, so for then the extra fire training for 20,000?
That, and if Scott was still here, he'd be answering to that, but oh, there you are. I thought you were already. Yeah. It might even come in higher than that, but I'm making him stick to it now. So we went with 20,000.
Above what we already, what previous
Above
council
what we
approved?
budgeted already.
So being a split department, rural and city, does the rural have money to up their ante, or is the city putting the full 100%?
Oh, no, training wages get billed to them at the end of the year. So they pay a portion. So whatever our factual numbers are, they get charged their portion.
So have they been made aware that you're upping it by 20,000?
That's not how they write their budget, but they estimate it based on the prior year, and they add a percent to that. So to answer your question, no, I haven't personally spoken with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all comes through towards the end of the year. I think we settle up after September ends. It's because it runs from a September to a September timeframe.
Correct. I just don't want to be blindsided when they're pinching pennies already.
Well, they get the monthly reports from Scott, so
Okay.
he's letting them know that the training wages are high.
And then, just in the report, the treasurer's report, or what was printed out, under public safety designated savings,
Where are we looking now?
on the, under public safety designated, or designated savings,
Okay, I don't,
on the
That's-
back,
what report are you looking at?
it'd be the second page of the proposed for March.
Hold on.
Oh, are you on the?
I'm on the investment list summary for March.
Oh, you're in the treasurer's report. Hold on. Spreadsheet I gave you. All right.
I don't know where he's going.
Jump back up to here.
Oh.
And we're down here.
Yeah.
All right, you're on March, not April? Okay. And then you're looking at the
yeah, I'm just-
investment list?
Yeah, I'm just, why does the fire truck purchase at a 5.39, why doesn't that adjust in the following month of April? The 350, it's still 350 in April.
Oh, because that's originally from bond proceeds and I can't earn interest.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so it'll stand at 350. The city's getting that money. There'll be money there to put towards the remainder of the purchase. But that's the money that we had to set aside. And it was easier to have it somewhere and noted, so I moved it into the LGIP.
Thank you.
Alder Lawson?
Two quick things. So I'd like to see even more money go to the downtown improvement program, if possible. And are there any other staff wage issues that we could address with the extra budget?
That's probably the most loaded question I've been asked this week. There's always staff wages. I think I just want to be careful in that the direction to this point has been to get staff wages to the midpoint. And the further direction was establish an annual review process. And then once we have an established annual review process that all staff are being evaluated on an annual basis, once there was comfortability with that work happening, the idea was to look at a merit or bonus program of how staff would move from the midpoint to the higher end of their range. So to answer the question, could you work to start establishing that fund? Sure, but I also don't know that we've got a process outlined on how we're moving people from the midpoint, above the midpoint of their range. Are there staff interested in increased wages? Of course there are. But I think we've got to find a system of how we fairly move people from that midpoint above the midpoint.
So we've got no one left behind.
Not at this point. The only people below the midpoint are recent hires that have a structure in their offer letter that gets them to the midpoint.
So just a point, if you remember from prior meetings, the adjustments that we're making with the elimination of the deputy clerk offset most of that, if not all of it. We kind of analyzed it that way. That's why you don't see it here asking for increased budget.
Any other questions? Alder Austin?
The expenditure, the Department of Revenue paperwork, that's part of this, correct?
Yes.
Is your email correct, .us? Is it supposed to be .gov? It's one thing I did catch.
Oh, the original one that was filed was before it, oh, no, they have me in there as .us. So, yeah, my login with them still has the .us on it.
Okay.
So, that's a good point. You have to go through a lot of hoops to get that changed. I'm going to put that on my to-do list.
Are there any other questions or concerns? You comfortable moving this along? Okay.
And this would require a public hearing at the June 4th meeting, which we'll schedule as part of the agenda.
All that's left is to adjourn. I will take a motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, I have a motion from Alder Finkler, a second from Alder Motif. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are.
Quick before the rain comes down again.